I'm off to Salem, Massachusetts to see my brother and his husband, and it's happening right over the Halloween weekend. Now, let me be fully transparent here. I do not like Halloween, and I definitely do not like dressing up. But then there's a little bit of peer pressure, like, well, you know, there's a video idea there. This is what you want. And so I got to thinking, like, okay, all right, this could be fun. We all get dressed up. We go out. We make something of it. I asked to see who's going to be joining me in this, and they both left me out to dry. Not only that, look at the gifts they sent me. They're nasty about it. But you know what, Mike? I will have fun doing this, despite it not being my thing. And so I got to thinking, and well, I don't like ghouls and goblins. Those are my least favorite. So I thought, well, why don't I dress up like my ancestors, the Mennonite people? And now allow me to show you a few photos of my handsome ancestors. For this project, I'm going to make the overalls. And now my brethren, they tend to like their pants either in black or brown. I went with the brown. And this is a rather cheap polyester type fabric. A lot like my people like to use as well, and it saves money, which, well, we've never been accused of being lavish, so. I'm using this basic pants pattern that I created for myself a while ago, but I'm gonna go slightly larger. I don't wanna have to wear something over top on the day of, and it's very possible that it could get chilly, so by being larger, I can also wear some warming clothes underneath. So I'm taking a bit of a risk here going straight to the final fabric, but the benefit is that, again, my people have never been accused of fashion, so if these turn out to be a bit ill-fitting, hey, I fit right in again. And then I have my laptop over here where I'm referencing the images of what they look like, but based on these images, it looks like I need to add about 3 inches up here, so that way the actual top half of the overall doesn't start down here. And then I'm going to take this front panel and then copy it over. I don't have that much extra fabric, so I gotta be frugal here. I'm really embodying the spirit of this costume, if you will. For the back here, I'm going to repeat the modifications that I did in the front. Along the top here, though, is where things get interesting. First, I do have to add in that 3 inches right about here. I add in another 12 for the back panel, so that'll bring me to 15 here. And then this, I'm going to go in, say, 4 inches for a total of 8 in the back. And this line has to curve down to meet here. But then, along the side here is the pockets in the front, and there's a flap that has to go behind the pocket in the front. And then I'm going to angle it in. Now I make a copy of that back panel. And so I thought to myself, why don't I, while I make these pants, also tell the story of my people? And so it is very important, though, that I put up a bold disclaimer. I'm talking to you fellow Mennonites, mostly. Look, this is a high-level overview. And not only that, it is very specifically about only my strain of Mennonites. I grew up as an old colony Mennonite. There's many, many different types of Mennonites of all different flavors, shapes, and sizes. Okay? Before I get into the actual Mennonite story, I take one step further back in history, and we start off with Christianity, so I can put us in context. Now, the original Christians were Roman Catholics. They were the OGs of the game. There was a lot of corruption, torture. And so then along comes this Martin Luther fella who says, hold on a second here. I think we've gone a bit astray. And so he writes this 95-point thesis, which he posts on the door of a church. And Mr. Martin Luther is essentially the forefather of what are today known as Protestants. And so now you've got your two major branches of Christianity, right? A group of them separated as well as a reaction to those two, without getting into the religious aspects, that essentially said, look, we believe that to truly be a Christian, you can't be baptized as a child. It's something you have to accept when you're an adult. These people referred to themselves as Anabaptists. First up, I'm sewing on the zipper / making the fly. Notice how my thread is black? Well, we'll revisit this subject in a minute. At this point, I need to introduce our first character. His name is Menno Simons. Spoiler alert, founder of the Mennonites. But, fun little fact about his name is that his last name, Simons, is what is known as a patronym, which essentially means that Simon was his father's name. You add an S at the end for Simons, and he's the son of Simon. When we meet this Menno Simons, at this point in the story, he is an ordained Roman Catholic priest. But he started to question some aspects of his faith, and for the first time in his life, he read the Bible. At the time, the Bible wasn't the only word by which Christians followed. Apparently, the Church Fathers, which was a series of important theologians and other members high-ranking in the church, whose words they followed. Now, Menno also has a brother by the name of Peter. He's Anabaptist already. And he was killed in a rather violent overthrowing of a Roman Catholic monastery. And so this became a breaking point for Menno for two reasons. A, it's when he decided to renounce his Catholicism, but also where he developed his belief in pacifism. Unlike normal pants, which should have a waistband here, I do have the extra fabric, so I'm going to sew across here like this. Turn around. Boop! Alright, well, my zipper works. Moving on to the front pocket. And now that Menno Simons had become an Anabaptist, he became a leader in the community. He became quite influential, and he got a lot of followers of what today are known as Mennonites. And now Mennonites make up the largest portion of the Anabaptist population. Over half. In there are also Amish, some more traditional Baptists, the Hutterites. Those are sort of the main ones. Now, do you remember earlier when I told you to pay attention to the color of the thread? Boy, do my brethren like white top stitching, plenty of it. But it's always black or a dark color in the old crotchal region by the zipper. You mean white thread to highlight the fly where... Well, We shan't say what's there, but oh my goodness, to highlight it with white thread, nay, 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 that we shall not do. I have to double stitch to keep it authentic at least twice. Polyester is so slidey. Oh, whew, they are not straight at all. Look at that. My pockets, my zipper are on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now attach the back panel to the front panel. And I'm going to do it along the outside, right along here. And then also build out that little flap part. And so as time went on, these Dutch Mennonites, these German Mennonites, they started to move into this area known as Prussia, which is today known as Poland. And the reason they were moving there is because they were promised to be exempt from mandatory military service. And so now while the Mennonites are in this region, they also pick up a local dialect, which is called Plottisch, and incorporate a bit of their own, like Dutch and German. And by the way, Plottisch translates to Low German, because I believe it comes from a low area. But essentially, they take it over, make it their own, and today we now speak Plottisch as Mennonites. And so in Plottisch, what you would call what I'm making right now is Schlobachsen. So let's say that slow together. Schlo, schlo, backsen, backsen, schlo, backsen. Overalls, Schlobachsen, which almost sounds like the word Schoblen, which means beans. All right, so I've got that top stitched, that little flap that comes behind. I'm going to top stitch down the side of the leg here. And it's on the outside of the leg that my people get quite top stitch happy. 3 layers I've noticed on most pair of pants. Seems like one of those things that someone once did and then it just became the way everyone did it. Okay, so there it is. But that sort of sums up the side. Is it perfect? Is it the way it's supposed to be? No, but it's pretty close, I think, and it turned out all right. Moving on to back pockets here, which I forgot to cut out. Now, for 250 years, Mennonites thrived in Prussia. Until eventually, let me check the name, Frederick William II had a rethink of this whole military exemption thing. Thinking, like, you're thriving, you're doing well, but you don't have to serve in the military. Okay. Not a big fan of this. But he didn't kick him out. He just levied very heavy fines for anyone who did not serve. A little prep work on these pockets before I sew them on as well. And so Catherine the Great reaches out to the Mennonites and says, look, I got a deal for you guys. Come on over to Russia. We got lots of land. And not only that, we'll also give you that military exemption that you lost over there in Prussia. Turns out the deal was a little too good to be true. It was terrible land. They had to work hard till eventually, finally, it became good, workable farmland. Regimes have changed, nationalism is in the air, and people start asking questions like, hold on, who's this group of people over here? Doesn't have to do any military service, and they have all the good farms? This old chestnut. We gotta serve in the military again. And so they send delegates to North America to prospect for new lands. They hear things are good there. Seems like a good place to go, and they're all getting ready to make their move when all of a sudden the government realized, like, oh, hold on, they're all about to leave, and the vast majority of our country is being fed by these Mennonites. And so they have a bit of a rethink. I'm like, okay, all right, look, guys, no military service necessary. You guys just work in the forestry service, chop down trees and things for us. All right? I'm like, all right, cool deal. We'll stick around for that. But at that point, the vast majority had left for North America, and it was sort of two different areas that they went. There was the more liberal ones. They headed off to the U.S., and the more traditional came to Canada, which is where my ancestors came. World War I has just happened, and things are changing. And one of the specific ones being that all schools now have to teach the public school education system combined with flying the Union Jack. Well, look, that's something us Mennonites are not going to be doing. We want to do our own thing. Some of my great-grandparents' contemporaries make a trip to Mexico to scout for fresh land. And so this is where my grandparents and my parents were both born. Final step for today is to close up the legs. Things were going well in Mexico, and a little bit too well, because my grandparents decided that they were going to pack up and move to Paraguay. There was too much technology, life was going too well. They needed more hardship. The way there used to be this whole military service thing, that's now more lately been replaced by life's too good, we need to suffer more. And so it was in Paraguay that I was born. And then we got word that turns out there's this policy in Canada's immigration that if you have ancestors from here, one descendant gets to claim that citizenship. So we noped out of Paraguay, and here we are. Just a quick try on here to make sure there aren't any major errors with these things. They certainly are going to be loose fitting, that's for sure. Not bad. It's all right. So the same time the Mennonites are heading to North America in the late 1800s, there's this one Mennonite by the name of Clauseps Jr. who has declared that in 1889 the Lord is going to come for his people, and it's going to be in Central Asia, and that's where they should be going. So he takes his small group of followers, end up in what is today Uzbekistan. Local bandits get word that they're pacifists, and it reaches the point where they just even come in their homes and take things from them, until eventually the local Khan decides, you know what, come into this walled garden, we'll take care of you. Well, 1889 comes and goes, and the rapture doesn't happen. But Clauseps Jr., he's a quick thinker, and he says, oh, right. Yeah, no. The clock was tilted. I got it wrong. It's actually 1891. 1891 comes and goes. Still nothing. Still, quick thinker says, you know what? Surprise. I'm actually the son of Christ. Ta-da! He eventually dies. And they actually thrived and stayed there until 1935, till the colony died out. And to finish out here, here's the sweet, sweet voices of my people singing in church.